Siesta Sand Live. Siesta Sand Live is broadcast from Captain Kurt's Village. It's Siesta Key's home to great food, great drinks, great music, and great times. Look for the giant American flag.
Hello, welcome to Siesta Sand Live. I'm your host, Natalie Gutwein, coming to you from the beautiful Captain Kurt's here on Siesta Key. And we've got a great show lined up today. Chris Brown, don't know if you've heard of him. He owns a lot of things here on Siesta Key. He's got the Summer House, the Beach Club, MVP, a lot of properties. It's got a lot to say, so stay tuned.
The next segment is brought to you by the Judy Berger team, part of Sotheby's International Realty. Whether a buyer or a seller, you'll be delighted with their service. And by Altez Vacations. It's the perfect place to go to find that perfect place to rent.
So welcome. I am here with Chris Brown. For those of you that don't know, Chris Brown is a very important figure here on Siesta Key. I know he kind of hates to hear that, but you own a lot of businesses here. You've got the Summer House, the Cottage, Hub, Beach Club, MVP. You own a lot of buildings. You've got the Boatyard. What am I missing?
Well, I mean, we don't have to go through all the assets, but there's a few downtown and there's a few in Osprey and some other stuff on Siesta for sure. Yeah.
So how did you get to Siesta Key? How did this all start?
Well, it's a long story. I moved down in my 20s from Milwaukee. My parents had retired here, so I used to come down, a couple times a year to visit them. And I thought, wow, this is a great place. This is awesome. And I found Siesta. And I ended up moving. I packed everything up and moved on down and actually stayed with my mom for about 90 days, and she had enough. And I ended up moving out to the Key, actually, on Crescent Street, right down the road here.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So I heard you started in the car business.
I did. So when I got to Florida, I didn't know anybody, and I didn't have a job. And so I had met somebody that was a car wholesaler, and he hired me to drive some of the cars he purchased. And so I was driving them back and forth from Fort Myers to Sarasota, and $50 a day kind of thing. And
Yeah.
But I saw what he was doing, and I saw him buy a car for $10,000, and then I watched him 10 minutes later sell it for $11,000 to another dealer. And I thought, well, that's kind of fascinating. And so I said, I want to be a wholesaler. And I started and actually ended up being decent at it, and was able to, since I was on the road all day buying vehicles,
Yeah.
I started looking at real estate. And it was just another deal, kind of, just different numbers. And
Right.
So I ended up...
Different negotiations,
Little-
the same skill set.
Yeah. So I'd buy a Gulf Gate house for $100,000 while I was on the road buying cars. Sell it for $115,000, and I started doing that a lot, flipping houses as well as vehicles.
Back when Gulf Gate houses were
100,000, yes,
grand.
it's-
Yeah, that
that's
won't
right.
buy you much over there now.
Not
but-
anymore, no.
So what was your first commercial property?
Let me think. My first commercial property was on 41, next to Hawley Motors. There's like a budget rent-a-car. I think there's a golf cart
I know where
place
you're
in
at
it.
now. Yeah.
That was my very first piece of commercial property. And I had it for a year and a day. And then, long-term, short-term capital
Yeah.
gains. I was learning about that. I had a friend, and I was big into residential real estate. And I had a friend that says, Chris, why don't you buy commercial? And I said, well, what's the difference? And he said, well, commercial is triple net. And I said, what does that mean? And he said, when the insurance comes, when the property tax comes, the tenant pays it. I said, really?
Yeah, that is a much
Yeah.
different concept than residential, where you're
Because
on your own.
I'll be honest, I'm lousy at budgeting. I owned a bunch of houses. I had a lot of cash flow, but at the end of the year when I owed a bunch of money for property taxes
Yeah.
and insurance, I'm like, where's that money? So I'm not good at that. And so having said that, I liquidated the whole portfolio in 2004 of dozens of houses and apartment buildings, a little early because the peak wasn't till the end of '05, so it was
Yeah,
a little
but if
early.
you would have held on much longer, you don't know what would have.
I can only imagine.
Hindsight's 2020.
You're not kidding,
It's
so-
all worked out. Yeah, that I had 4 houses
Okay.
during that time, and yeah,
We all suffered through that.
we all kind of. Thank God there was no horrible ending, but you kind of. A lot of people. There was horrible endings for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So what was your first property on Siesta Key?
It was now this is an interesting story. Because I didn't have a lot of money and I was just starting my little car career, there was a fourplex on Crescent Street for sale for $300,000. And I thought, oh my God, in Milwaukee, which you could get for $300,000,
Oh, I bet.
a mansion, right? And I'm
What
thinking,
year was this? Ish.
1993.
Okay.
End of 93. And so I had saved about $7,000. And because I had qualified for a first-time buyer program
Oh,
back then,
yeah.
I got my parents to buy the other half of the fourplex.
Oh.
So it was actually a duplex and a duplex that shared a common driveway. And they co-signed a loan for me. And I lived in one unit, and I rented out the other 3, and it
Oh,
paid
that's a
my
great
mortgage.
idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I was, I wasn't making a lot of money in the car business, but they supplied me with a car and a phone and gas and everything. So I only had an electric bill. And my mortgage was paid, and I held on to that property for a very, very long time. And I literally only sold it, about 10 years ago, 8 or 10
Oh.
years ago. Yeah, and it's amazing the difference in value between $300,000 back then. And,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
That's-
So, but I refinanced it. I started buying duplexes around it on Crescent Street. I started using the equity in that, and
Ah.
it kind of grew, and yeah, that's how it all started. That gave me my little push. That little fourplex, I love it.
Yeah.
I drive by it, once every couple
Oh,
months,
really?
just to pay homage to it. Yeah.
I heard a lot of great things when I told people that I was going to interview you.
Okay.
I got a lot of good info, and one of the things that came up was that you like the negotiation, you like building, you like looking at what's out there and seeing what you can acquire and make it better, and you're always looking at what's going on out here on the Key and just anywhere in Sarasota, and that you're a really good steward of Siesta Key was the other thing that came out when you're selling properties, who you're selling it to, and that does make a really big difference with what's going on here on the Key. So, is there any truth to that?
Well, I mean, I appreciate that, and I do. I do care for sure. Siesta Key's been so good to me over the years, and if the very unusual situation where maybe I do sell a piece of property on the Key, I just won't sell it to anybody. So it's not about the money per se.
Right.
But then again, too, when I am looking at properties, I'm not a big developer. I have built things, but I don't look at a building like in the Village if I want to acquire it. What can I build there?
Yeah.
I look at it and say, wow, what can be done to that building, right?
Yeah.
So as you can see over the years, we've tried to better the existing buildings.
Right.
The one that really needed the most help was the summer house. So
Oh yeah, that was I was in there right before you bought it,
yeah.
and I think was it a barbecue place, I think, or something like that.
Blue Island Grill.
Oh yeah, it was kind of it was a wreck. But what you built there is perfect. Everybody loves the summer house. When people come into town and they say, "Where do I get a steak?" I say, "Go to the island. Just go to the summer house." I've never sent anything back there. It's always been great, which kind of says a lot, probably about me, but
No, I'm the same way, but you're right. That's an unusual one, and I have to give a lot of credit to my partner and the staff. Again, it's about the level of service. We run into some difficulty sometimes because a lot of people, franchises are a lot easier to run sometimes because you look
Right.
at a manual, right?
right, yeah, it's all assembly line.
It
It's
is.
the same thing over and over and over again.
So we've got on the Key, we've got five bars and restaurants. Every menu's different. every food item. Each one, the kitchens are designed differently. So it's its own unique individual
Right.
facility, which makes it much harder to train,
Yeah.
much harder to staff,
Yeah.
high end to, midline sports,
Well, you've the Beach
tapas.
Club,
The Beach
longest
Club.
running establishment on Siesta Key.
Certainly.
What's going on with that? I know it's changed. I walked in there the other day and I was just looking around. I was like, wait, this is different.
It is different. And again, we're always trying new things. So, it's been a live music venue for 80 years. That'll never change. But during the days, we have found that a lot of times people, 10 or 15, 20 years ago, the Beach Club, the Crescent Club, downtown, there was 3 or 4 things that were on the top 5 list when you left the house. We're going to go here, here, and here.
Right.
Now there's so many choices. Right?
Yeah, right. That's true.
And so, how do we get back to getting that Beach Club in the conversation again?
Huh.
And part of that was, let's maybe add a food element, And now I'm not talking about a full-blown kitchen, but I got to tell you, oysters, shrimp, some nice steamable stuff, and wings, and then we had a nice little retail center that just kind of, again,
It's cute.
yeah,
It's really
yeah.
cute,
And
which I was not expecting out of the Beach Club.
Yeah, I know. And that was Katie, our administrative assistant. She designed that. She bought the merchandise.
Oh.
And again, it's just kind of, we're testing the waters. And
Yeah.
it just started a few weeks ago, and we're just kind of going at it. So
Are you still doing the Thursday night? Is it still going to be a club at night?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it's still going to be a club at night, and club has different meanings, but yes.
Right.
So it's kind of interesting how things have changed, and certainly as I've gotten older, we have found over the last few years that live music, or at least my demographic, I'll say, I love live music, but I don't want to stay out till 3 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
So
Those days are over for most
Right.
of us. Yeah.
So we started playing with the times of the live music and a DJ, because they are different.
yeah,
and they're different
right, they
crowds,
are, yeah.
Right? So now the live music goes on at 8 or 9 at night, and it's done by 11 or 12, and then the DJ comes on for the younger
okay.
crowd.
That explains. Right, because if you're standing here on the Key, or if you're at any of the establishments, when the live music stops, our age group is gone.
That's exactly
We are
right.
waltzing out the door. We are done.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's what we're again, it's always evolving. It's always changing. We're trying to find the right fit, but we'll never stop trying for sure,
So you just added the Pokey restaurant. How's that going?
Well, little change recently. So we added that, and then out of the clear blue sky, there was some folks that wanted to own a business on Siesta.
Oh.
And they approached us and said, hey, you just started it a couple weeks ago. Would you mind if we just purchased it from you and support our family, right? And, we looked at each other and we're like, we like to create things.
Right.
And it might be better for us, with everything we have going on, to be a landlord-tenant relationship than to own a small business.
Is it the same did they buy the concept?
They did.
Okay.
They did, and so they're keeping it. They may tweak it a little bit. We were tweaking it anyways. We don't.
Yeah. Well, didn't you start it right around the time the hurricanes came?
Sure did. Week
Yeah,
before.
those
Yeah.
lovely hurricanes.
We sure
yeah,
did.
that was insane.
And that was part of the reasoning too, because we had to rebuild other facilities. The last thing we needed to worry about was a little 600 square foot poke bowl business.
Oh,
right?
that makes sense. Yeah, the hub. From what I understand, the hub and the cottage got hit really hard.
They did. The kitchens were destroyed. And this goes to show maybe some codes, which are beneficial. The summer house did nothing at all,
Wow.
besides losing power.
Yeah.
But other than that, Beach Club got hit too, but not as bad as the hub and the cottage. MVP's is a little elevated with that plaza there.
Oh.
So that didn't get hurt either. Some of the things behind it, walk-in coolers that are in the ground in the rear, got hurt. But other than that, we were up and running pretty quick there. So,
Yeah, the summer house was really fast.
Really
I was
fast.
like, oh, thank God it's open. Because I'm out on the Key. I don't leave it some days. I don't leave it at all. And didn't want to cook at home, and so when the summer house was open in the afternoon there for a little while, I was pretty happy
People love
about
that lunch.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, they loved it. It was the best deal in the county, to be honest. Yeah, and they were a little disappointed when we stopped it. And maybe we'll bring it back during season.
Yeah.
Maybe we will. We will be. What is coming, though, I will tell you, is a Sunday brunch at the summer house.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah, so
oh,
that's
I'm sure
coming.
that'll be packed.
Yeah.
During season, if you don't have a reservation, you're not going in until 9 o'clock. I tell people, go to the bar.
That's right.
Or you can eat it around 9. You can.
And
eat
I
it
like
without
eating
a
at the bar, too.
reservation.
I don't mind
Oh,
eating
I
at the
do,
bar.
too.
Yeah.
I love your bartenders in there.
they're
I go in
wonderful.
there. I'm surprised at how many, I get clients in real estate from all over the country. And I can't tell you how many people have said that's their favorite steakhouse.
Wonderful.
They just love the atmosphere.
Wonderful.
The drinks, I may or may not have had a couple too many. There we go. They're so good. That, what is it, espresso martini and some
that's a
siesta
good one.
thing
Yes.
that I don't even know what liquor's in it. But
Rachel's wonderful. Rachel's wonderful. And Joe, of course. But yeah, Rachel started with us, 15 years ago, maybe even longer. She was a hostess at the Hub.
Oh, really?
15, now she's a bar manager, at the summer house.
I'm
so.
sure that you've got a lot of that. People that have been with you since. What do you remember? What year you opened your first restaurant?
Yeah, we opened. So we bought. I bought the property where the Hub is at in January of '06, and we opened up the restaurant in February of '08.
So that was your first restaurant?
That was it.
Wow.
That was it. And I had, Mike is my partner.
Mike Grantham.
Yeah, and wonderful
Yeah,
person.
he's a great guy.
And so, we worked a deal out back then. I said, Mike, I'll buy the property. I'll come up with the concept.
Mm-hmm.
You got to run it. and restaurants in his blood. He loves it, and he's so good at it.
Yeah.
And that's the deal we've had ongoing. So.
That's a good deal.
It's a great deal for both of us. And then in the last 10, 15 years, Mike has started to buy real estate with me.
Oh.
So he's stepped up, and just from being an owner of restaurants, he now owns a very nice portfolio of real estate as well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I know his wife. We were on the board of the
CPC?
Philippi Shores.
Oh, gotcha.
The elementary
Yeah,
school.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our kids are the same age. So that was
Okay.
when I met Tina.
Yeah,
And
she's great.
I'm actually looking forward to working with Mike. He's going to be on the board of the chamber with me.
He mentioned that. I'm
Yes.
very proud of that. And he's got some great ideas about how to keep this village, get it back into the shape it needs to be in, and then maintaining it.
Well, that's one of the things I wanted to ask you about was the village, upgrading the village. I've had some conversations lately with some of the players in that, and apparently I'm going to be joining some people to help get the village back in the beautification project.
Good.
And because if I understand it correctly, we're already paying for it, but we're not really seeing it from the county. Can you describe a little bit about that, how it started?
Yeah, it's a big level of frustration with me. First of all, starting with the storms, it's frustrating when you see, like, Manatee County the day after the storm. You just saw bulldozers. You saw crews out on Beach Road, and they were just going to town.
Yeah, and that's where our trash pickup went.
Yeah, exactly. And we literally it took weeks to get. We still have stop signs that are down. Come on, it's been 4 or 5 months.
Oh, yeah.
Stop
yeah.
signs that are down. This is life safety issues.
Mm-hmm.
So the last beautification of the village was in 2007, okay? And the county allocated for the village, they allocated $6 million for the whole island, including the beach, $4 million for the village. That was the bare minimum back then. They did it, and we were grateful for it. That's great.
Right. And that was when the power lines got buried and all that?
Correct.
Is that okay?
That is correct. And a lot of that $4 million went to bury those power lines. So you have to take that into consideration. So now you fast forward, 18 years, we as property owners, there is a line item on our property taxes that says PID, Public Improvement District.
And it's specifically referring to the village.
Specifically to the village, and it's for the village upkeep. And so on the properties, and just rough estimates, on the properties that I own in the village, that line item comes out to probably close to $80,000, maybe $100,000. Okay?
Okay.
Just on the properties that I own, not counting everybody else's. The county has a budget for this village maintenance program of $175,000 a year to maintain the village. So $15,000 a month. You can't do anything for 15.
I know.
And
the only thing I know they do is send that guy out every morning to pick up trash.
Exactly. But that should be a county. We already pay for trash.
Right.
And our regular property taxes. That shouldn't be included in a special.
Yeah, I don't know what else they do with it.
Well, they say they replace the lights. They say they pressure wash, which we rarely see. We have a full-time handyman at our establishments. And a lot of the property that we maintain is on the public right-of-way. All those hedges, all those brick pavers.
So you're the one taking care of all that.
In front of our proproperties. We're not doing it down the road, but yes, that's why we
look so nice. You've got a lot of frontage, though.
We've got a lot of frontage. But again, I don't mind participating.
Right.
But I'm spending 6 figures annually just maintaining the public right-of-way in front of my facilities.
Yeah.
That shouldn't be happening.
No, that's one of the things we've got to look at.
We've got to look at now. It's time for rejuvenization, and again, I know people talk about it. Siesta is a donor community, right?
We most certainly are.
Okay, so we generate the overwhelming 30 or 40% of Sarasota County's bed and hotel tax. Okay, well, the county a year ago gave $20 million out of that hotel and bed tax to Moat Marine to build the aquarium. We generated that money.
Right.
Give us $20 million.
Oh, could you imagine? Give us $1 million.
Well,
if we had $1 million of those dollars to spend
annually.
Right.
Annual. Give us but we need to do a massive rejuvenization. It's been 18 years.
Right.
Let's spend 20 or 25 million. Let's do it right, and let's get a nice annual budget to maintain it.
Well, and I think the timing is perfect because after the hurricanes, it's still a little brown. They've got to come in. The salt water did not do us any favors, but it's given us a clean slate for the county to come in and change things up, put some more greenery back.
I agree.
Actually beautify the village. So that's something that I think we're all going to be working on and trying to.
Well, Mark Smith, I know, he's our local county commissioner, and we've reached out to him. And he's told us to put a plan together.
Okay.
And so, that's what we're doing. And,
Mark is a friend of the podcast. He's been on a couple of times. He's got a lot of good information. And I think that's something that, we can get video of. We can make sure that the people that watch us are kept abreast of what's going on. So our commissioners know that there's people out there watching. But this is what, a lot of the people that come to Sarasota County, they come here to be on Siesta Key Beach. And when they come over those 2 bridges and they pull into our villages, it needs to sparkle like a beautiful penny.
I agree.
It needs to be one of the things that people look at and come to on Siesta, and it looks great.
It's world recognized, and it just doesn't show like that.
No,
right now.
it doesn't right now.
I totally agree. And Tom Knight, as you know, just got elected.
Yes.
So he represents the south end of the key. And so.
You're thinking of
you're right. Jim Newunder. You're
right.
Tom Knight's Venice.
Yes.
Exactly right.
But Tom is very much a steward for the key. He was on the podcast as well. Yeah. He's been doing a great job on his Instagram and Facebook, keeping people updated about how votes are going. There was an issue the other day with a vote and the way apparently county staff didn't alert about traffic, and it got rescinded.
Out on Bee Ridge.
Yeah.
I saw that with that.
And I think Tom letting people know, and I think it helps.
He's wonderful. He is, he's a great guy. And Joe is too. Joe's a good steward you're absolutely right. But of the south end, and I believe he would vote for it as well. And I really believe that they're all behind it. It just has to make sense, and we have to show them the numbers.
Right.
Show them the numbers. But if you can give $20 million to Moat Marine,
You can give us a little bit.
please. Yeah. Please.
You know what? Let's take a short break.
Okay.
And we'll be right back. We'll talk about hotels here on the Key. How's that sound?
Okie dokie.
The following segment is brought to you by Beach Bazaar, located in the heart of Siesta Village. Everything for the beach, and we do mean everything. And by FAM Development, the area's best in custom-built homes. Start living your dream on and around Siesta Key.
Okay, we are back with Chris Brown, and we're going to talk about the hotels. So, what can you tell me about your take on the hotels? What's coming up? What you're hearing about? What you've done about them?
Well, that's it's kind of mixed emotions on that. I literally, I am a firm believer that the island could certainly use some boutique hotels.
Right.
I'm not opposed to that.
I agree with
all.
that.
What a boutique hotel, what that looks like, I'm not sure. Number of rooms, I'm not sure what exactly. But I do know that you start getting to 200 or 300 rooms, and to me that does not fit.
No.
No.
No. We've said all along. I'm on the board of the Siesta Key Association. We do not want this place to look like Fort Lauderdale.
That is for sure.
That is 100%
Island, Fort
right.
Lauderdale, exactly.
No, we want to keep the charm, but have some boutique hotels.
I agree. I think location has a lot to do with it as well. I think Dave Ballard's got a wonderful location at Wells Fargo.
Yeah, it fits perfectly.
It
it's over there where the condos are already.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And it's 2 acres. It's almost a perfect square. It's not going to bottleneck the traffic there.
Right. Yeah.
It's close enough to the beach where they can either walk and or maybe a shuttle bus of some sort.
Right.
Golf
Yeah,
carts.
true. Yeah.
So I think that is a perfect location. Actually, Dr. Gary's location too, because it's kind of off the main drag, actually a pretty decent location as well. I think where they've got the biggest opposition in my mind would be smack dab in the middle of the village.
Right, because if you tear the village down to put a hotel,
That's correct.
there goes our charm.
There it goes. and people don't think about the 2 or 3 possible years of construction
Oh,
to build
right,
such
yeah.
a monstrosity in the village. It would be a mess for several years.
God, yeah.
Yeah, and that's something we don't think about a lot, but it doesn't fit. And again, some of those players that are proposing that, sometimes they don't have the best interest of the village.
No, I don't think they're stewards of Siesta Key like you are.
Right.
I've heard you have that you're very cognizant of who you are selling properties to. That you are very cognizant of what's going to happen, of looking forward to what could happen if you sell to certain people. And any truth behind that?
Yeah, there is. I'm not one to sell normally, but there's always a reason, and sometimes you just think it's time for whatever reason that is.
Right.
But yeah, I just don't sell to anybody, and it's not always about the money, because I can tell you that I have been offered more money for certain things, but it was to somebody that wasn't necessarily had the best interest of the village. And some of the people I do sell to, and there's only a few. I mean, it's less than a handful, of course. And the names, Mark Cara. I've done business with Mike Holderness and Dave Ballard. I sold them the hotel. In the village, the main hotel that they have now.
I don't know that I real. So you owned that before?
Well, it was an
Mike
interesting
and
deal.
Okay.
I years ago, I had bought half of the Tropical Breeze.
Okay.
And that's how Mike Holderness got to the island. So I had bought half of the Tropical Breeze. Steve Witcher owned the other half, and it consisted of about 65 units altogether. Duplexes, houses.
Oh yeah.
It was just kind of a hodgepodge of a lot of units. And I bought half from the Bank of Commerce. And this, of course, was kind of when the world was falling apart, 9, 10.
Yeah.
Maybe even 11. And so I bought that, and I realized that I was not cut out for owning hotels/resorts.
Oh, okay.
And so I sold those units to Mike Holderness.
Oh,
And that's how Mike
okay.
ended on the island. Okay, and the rest is history with Mike. Mike.
Right,
Just,
yeah, he
then
grabbed
he
it
just,
and ran
he
with
sure
that.
did. So he moved down here from Manatee County. He was a respected realtor up in that area for years and years and years. I knew his father. I knew Mike, and so we worked out a deal. I sold those units to him. Well, fast forward a couple more years. And I had put the Best Western. It was a Best Western, if you recall.
Yes, I do remember that.
I put that under contract, and just because I guess I thought it was a deal, and and then I realized, Chris, another 55 units. You just sold
Right,
the Tropical
you just
Breeze.
got out of that game.
What are you getting yourself into? So I ended up marketing it actually before I even closed on it. and worked a deal with Mike and Dave, and
Oh,
and
I
sold
see.
them.
Assigned the contract over to him.
I sure
Got it.
did for,
Okay.
for
So that's why nobody knows that you were
instrumental
owner.
in that.
Right,
That's
yeah.
right. Yeah. Again, one of those deals that it just,
There's a lot of stories I've heard about with you, things you've been involved in. The market over here is one of them.
that is, yeah. And that recently went to Mark Cara, who's a
Okay.
great guy. He was actually born and raised on the island. So he had those roots. And I had
Yep.
sold Mark a few years ago. We refer to it as the Lafino building, which is next
The
to
one
the
on
Salty
the
Dog.
end, yeah, the right as you come in the village, the
That's
very
correct.
first thing.
Little office building. And I had actually bought that to build a parking garage.
Ah,
So that I thought it was the end cap in the village, a great place for a parking garage. I had it designed. And of course, I went to the county to say, hey,
I can only imagine how that went over.
And ironically, and that was a decent sized lot. It was a half-acre lot. I could have gotten 350 parking spaces on 5 floors. Again, I had it all designed. Went to the county, sat with the county administrator and a few other department heads. And because there is a little, and it's dry 80% of the time, but there is what's called a platted waterway behind there.
Ah.
And it's a little creek, and when it rains, yes, there may be a half inch of water in there, but because that was actually a platted waterway from 1947, and it had a couple of mangroves there,
They're
there is a
protected.
50-foot buffer zone from any construction. So the
Oh.
lot was only 100 feet wide. Well, if you've got a 50-foot buffer zone,
No, you're
You
not
can't-
left with much.
so in actuality, the building that's there now could never be built under today's codes because it
Because
covers
of
the whole
that.
lot. Right?
Wow.
So having said that, I said, could I ask for an exemption?
Yeah.
And they said, Chris, it's been tested in the courts.
Yeah.
It's not a battle we're willing to fight. And so the answer is no, you cannot build a parking garage. So
Oh.
I ended up selling that building to Mark Cara. That's how we got around to Mark, and that's how I met Mark. And that was 5-6 years ago. So Mark's done a great job with that building, cleaning it up.
He's a
And
great steward of Siesta
he
Key
is.
also. He's
And
always looking out for the
you
place.
bet. And he's just a downright nice guy.
Yeah.
And so I, again, for one reason or another, there was an opportunity with the market. We've got the other market in the village. Some other opportunities popped up, and Mark had shown some interest. And so I said, Mark, if you want to buy it, now's your time. We've got wonderful tenants in there. I fixed it up.
Yeah.
And we worked out a deal. And so, God bless him and congrats to him. Now he's becoming a major player on the island.
Right, yeah. Closed after the hurricanes. That was.
It did. It closed
Yeah.
in November. Yes, it did.
Yeah.
It closed in November, and we didn't sustain a lot of damage there. Unfortunately, they did get flooded.
Right.
But a lot of drywall. A lot of that.
Nothing
caused
major
that.
structural, just
Nothing
some
structural.
drywall
Right.
and a mess. Yeah.
A
I love
mess.
that mural that's on the side of that.
We
Where
did
did
that, and
come from?
we've got a mural guy that actually worked for us as a waiter for a long time, and he's an artist. And
What's his name?
It's a Latin name,
Oh,
so
okay.
it's hard for me to pronounce. But
Okay.
he's actually at the beach club doing one right now again on the north wall.
Okay.
We had an old photograph from the 50s of the beach club with two old cars parked in front of it.
Yeah.
The beach club, and so we've got this old photograph which we've kept for years and we love. We had him do a mural of that.
Oh, that'll look great.
Yeah, it's almost done, and he's done murals all over for us. He's
Yeah, I
wonderful.
love those murals. I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
it adds
and
a
that's
lot.
a great welcome to Siesta right there. Right?
Oh,
At the-
well, so the day after Milton,
Yes.
I came over, had my son and one of his friends with me, and they wouldn't let us drive over, but they would let us walk over.
Okay.
So I said, all right, boys, we're going. We're walking to the house. Of course, they were not happy about that. So we come over, and I could not believe how many people, reporters, were standing in front of that Welcome to Siesta Key sign, and that's because, the eye of the storm had just gone over us. And that was where they were doing their newscasts.
Nice.
We're in front of that
Yeah.
mural.
Yeah, it's great. No, that's great. And we always get a lot of compliments on stuff. That's just kind of who we are, right?
Right.
That's just,
Yeah.
a lot of people, why do you, spend to do that? Well, I mean, look at the enjoyment.
Oh, yeah,
that,
yeah.
And
Those are the kind of things that make Siesta Key Siesta Key.
Right.
The people like Mark, like you, the people that really care about this place, that put their time and energy and money, and it doesn't necessarily come back in your wallet, but it just makes Siesta Key what it is.
and there's a lot of truth to that. And I got to tell you, very blessed. Siesta Key has been very good to me.
Yeah.
Very, very good. So I don't mind giving back at any time.
What about the boatyard? What's going on with that
What's
whole
that?
project?
What's that boatyard?
Is that a sore subject? Sorry.
The boatyard. The boatyard is actually a wonderful piece of property at the
Pretty
gateway.
big, isn't it?
It's a little over 2 acres. It consists of about 25 or 30,000 square feet of buildings. It's an interesting piece of property. It is actually, when it was built by the developer in the 80s, it was condominiumized.
Oh.
So there are actually 21 parcel IDs there.
That's
Each
interesting.
unit, it has its own parcel ID. But I happen to acquire all the units
Okay.
and the association, so the latest there is, the end cap is an 8,000 square foot restaurant that I've been working with architects and engineers for the last several months, trying to get a plan together on the water after hurricanes, dealing with the county. There's just
A lot of pieces.
a lot of obstacles, a lot of humps, and so we're trying to work through that
Yeah.
because it can be something very special.
Yeah.
But it just needs. When I first moved to town, what the heck was the name of that place that was there? But it was a happening place, and it eludes me right now. But it was it was kind of a high-end cocktail
Oh.
lounge, and
Yeah.
it just, oh my Lord! So I know it can be busy.
Right. Yeah.
And again, it's at the gateway to Siesta, so it's right there.
Yeah.
But that's where we're at on that. It's
So
hopefully
you'll
it comes
be
along.
building something brand new there.
Brand new or certainly a 90% remodel. Right.
Is that in a flood zone?
Oh, definitely.
Okay.
Oh, definitely. The good thing is, though, it is elevated. It's 12 feet above FEMA, so
it's already
it's
elevated.
exempt from the 50% rule.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's great.
That is
okay,
great.
so you can renovate away.
And it's zoned CI zoning, which is a very intensive zoning in Sarasota County. You can a marina, you can
Yeah.
do all kinds of things under CI zoning. So there's some good tenants there. The Siesta Key Water Sports has been there for years. Those guys run the jet ski parasail.
Yeah.
Wonderful guys. And they're kind of like the anchor tenant right now because the restaurant is vacant.
Oh, okay.
So, but hopefully we'll have some news on that.
That'd be
next
another great concept.
I think so. I think so. But again, it's a lot of pieces have to come together. But the possibilities are endless there.
So, are there any upcoming changes to any of your restaurants in the village, or?
So upcoming changes. Well, we just recently, did a little bit of change at the beach club. Added a steamer, and we're doing some steamed oysters. A big thing we've been working on for about a year, and we want to do it right, is brunch at the Summer House. So hopefully
Yeah.
that's going to be happening sometime in March. But we want to do it right, and
Yeah,
so
yeah.
we you're limited on space, and you don't want to take too many tables away,
Oh,
to put a
yeah,
buffet of some
yeah,
sort. So literally, and we're worried about traffic flow, and we just
There's a
want
lot
to do it
to
right.
it, yeah.
There's a lot to it, and because we do think it'll be busy, and
It'll be reservation only.
sure, and so we want to make sure we do it right, and so hopefully that'll happen. What else? We've got did you notice we put a little tiki out in front of MVPs? Did you notice?
I did, yeah. You've tikied up the village a little bit. One in front of Beach Club, over Beach Club.
So we own that piece of property. It was a flower planter.
Well, that's where the shark was,
That's
right?
where the shark was,
Yeah.
exactly. And the shark came down with the storm.
Oh, okay.
We've decided when I fix the clock up on the tower, which is happening as we speak, I'm going to hang the shark up there on that tower along with another fish.
Oh, good. I like the shark.
yeah, it's
Every
coming
little
back.
kid on the planet loved the shark. I
Yep.
have pictures of my son under
Right.
the shark.
And so what we're thinking about doing there is, and hopefully it happens in the next couple of weeks, we're going to sell coconut drinks out of there.
Nice.
Raw coconut milk, coconut juice, fresh coconuts where we take the top off right there for you. So it's
That's
fresh.
a great idea.
Yeah, so that's coming.
Yeah. Oh, great. Yet another temptation I'm going to have to drive
Well,
by.
For the temptation for you is if you just pay a couple extra bucks, you can add something to the coconut.
Yeah, that's going to be, that's exactly what that temptation is going to be. Yeah.
That's going to be the
It
biggest
is
one.
difficult to sell real estate on a tropical island, and everybody else is on vacation and
Right.
partying, and we're trying to work. Doesn't always work out like
Sure.
that, but
Sure, but that's coming. So that's coming. That'll be fun. So you might see a lot of coconuts on the
Yeah.
beach. We don't want to take too much heat, so we're going to have to figure that out too, because we don't want those ending up,
right, yeah.
all over the neighborhood. But we'll see. We'll see how it takes off. We'll see what happens there.
So, do you have a favorite restaurant?
It's funny you say that. I really do, and mine is the Cottage.
Oh, it's interesting that you say that because I can see why. But go ahead. Why?
Well, I'm not as big of an eater as I once was. So, coming from the Midwest, I was a big steak and potato guy.
Right.
Now I love to try multiple things, and I don't mind sharing.
That explains the menu
Yeah,
there.
it's a small plate.
Tapas and-
Exactly. So I love ordering 4 or 5 different things, and everybody gets a couple bites. So that's kind of what I like to do. So that's my favorite. Yeah.
Well, I can see why. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show. I really appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you for being a steward of the Key. And
Love it.
if you want to come back on, got more news for us, just let us know.
Anytime.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you. Thank you.
The final segment is brought to you by the law offices of Eric Fleming, specializing in real estate closings. Mr. Fleming is also the current president of the Siesta Key Chamber of Commerce. And by Gilligan's Island Bar and Grill. Experience the heartbeat of the Siesta Village's dining and social scene.
Chris, thank you very much for coming on the podcast. Wow, that was a great interview. I really appreciate everything he had to say and everything he does for Siesta Key. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, and I think we're doing a really good job on the podcast of talking to people about that. And that's what we're all about, getting the information out there, letting you know what's going on Siesta Key. There's so much. There's always something. Stay tuned. We'll have another great guest next week where we'll talk about what else is going on. So thank you for supporting the podcast. We'll be back next week.
Siesta Sand Live is broadcast from Captain Kurt's Village. It's Siesta Key's home to great food, great drinks, great music, and great times. Look for the giant American flag.